What is the big deal with all of us struggling with social acceptance? We want to fit in. Why is that? Well, we're going to tackle all of those issues and how you can increase your self-acceptance coming up.
Living Optimally with Pamela Jones is brought to you by Meditating Motivators.
Hi, I'm Pamela Jones, your meditating motivator, and welcome to another episode of Living Optimally with Pamela Jones. Today, we're going to dive into a very important topic is about social acceptance. What is the big deal about social acceptance? Well, we see everybody that is going gung-ho over being able to fit in, whether that is relationships, whether that is just trying to find the right friendship. Even at work, people are always trying to fit in with what the boss is going to be able to approve of or coworkers. And then what about the whole ordeal with social media? That's overboard with social acceptance. So everybody is trying to find out, what do I need to do? Do I need to change my hair? Do I need to change my complexion? Do I need to change what I'm wearing, how I look? But you know one thing, today we're going to talk about the importance of what is really to the root of what is the downfall with social acceptance. It's really, do we have self-acceptance? So the key is self-acceptance and being able to be true and authentic to who you are. Now, let me remind all of our viewers that here in Living Optimally, we focus on not just one aspect of being healthy and whole, but all aspects. That means physical, mental, emotional, social, as well as spiritual. So today we're going to dive a little bit into the social aspect. We don't think about it. We always just think of it as being in a relationship with a significant other. But I'm going to show you in so many different ways in your everyday life how important it is to be able to focus on the self-acceptance and not the social acceptance. Now, when we talk about that, everybody's trying to figure out, what do I need to do? Do I need to get as many likes? Do I need to be able to get all of these things to be able to fit into a group? But one of the things I want you to really focus on, I learned a long time ago, trying to jump through hoops for everybody else will drive you insane. So the main thing is, how do we stop and be able to put those in perspective? Now, later on in this show, I'm going to break down 10 surefire ways that you can be able to increase your self-acceptance on a daily basis. So we'll be able to focus those and break those 10 steps down. So really stay tuned and pay close attention. Now, one of the things I want to focus on with social acceptance versus your self-acceptance is a lot of times and for years, and this is so important because on a daily basis, I actually interact with so many people of all ages, and believe it or not, I encounter so many people that are much older than I am who still struggle with that. They might have said something to where I never was married, or I never had this, or I never had this type of job, and then they actually start measuring themselves. Now, for years, some of you might also know, I was actually a middle school teacher. That is a very important age because I had so many of them that struggled with their self-image. Now, that is so important because a lot of times when people are focused on your self-image, they actually, it's how you see yourself, not necessarily what somebody say that you need to be able to do. And in previous shows, I've also talked about your mental and your emotional health, how you see yourself. Don't hold yourself in measurement based on somebody telling you, well, you're too short, or you're too dark, you're too light, oh, your skin is too fair, we need a blonde, we need a brunette. Everything that you go out for or try to apply yourself is not necessarily for you. So one of the things I want you to really concentrate on is that self-acceptance. Now, I learned throughout my life, one of the most confident people that I knew that I really took example with is my grandmother. Now, my grandmother, I watched her and observed her all through life. And even up until the last few years of her life, well up into her 90s, she was still wearing high heels and fishnet pantyhose. And I love that because she didn't care what other people would think. She did what felt good to her. And as a small child, I would watch that. And that's what I always found that was very important. Now, going back to that, something is very important that I want you to focus on. Now, a lot of times people actually interact and they'll say, what's the new fashion that I need to do? Now, there are a lot of sites and companies out there that like to tell you about the fashions and things like this. And by all means, if that's what you're looking for, please go and do that. But I also remind everybody, whether they're teens or adults, if you're focused on just the outward appearance, you're going to miss the entire big picture. Now, going back to that, this is so important. There's two big topics or two stories that will always, or I would like to say two big events that happen in life that I always focus on when I'm actually sharing with somebody about how important it is for your whole self-image. Now, one of the things is whenever I see somebody who has long flowing hair, or somebody says, oh, you need to be a size 0 to be beautiful, or even when I was working in this entire facility of wellness, I would have guys come in and they would try to bulk up so much because they wanted to look a certain way because that's what was cool, that was what was sexy. I always like to say, believe it or not, sexiness oozes from the inside out. That is the most confident thing that you can be able to do, is find the sexy within, not necessarily what's out. Now, with that being said, one of the things that stands out with me is I remember a few years ago, and this is a great story for both young and old. Everybody knows who Gabby Douglas is. Now, this is so important to me, and this was a life lesson that stuck with me, and I always teach this on a regular basis. A lot of times people get stuck in one of the things is how we look, how the appearance. Now, years ago, this girl got out there and did a phenomenal job. She broke so many records, and I was so ecstatic for her and so proud, not just of her being a woman or what race or whatever, but because she was a determined person who dug deep and worked hard every day, and that hard work paid off. Now, she broke all these records and did great things for the entire world. Most of all, she did it for herself. But one of the things that was very interesting, at the time I was teaching school, and somebody brought up the comment that social media, somebody had this whole flow that they were more concerned about her hair. Go think, her hair. You missed the entire point of what phenomenal feat this young lady did. So I always like to share this. Now, you can't always control what somebody else is doing. Don't you lose sight of who you are trying to fit in what somebody else thinks is important or what you should look like. Make sure you understand, if somebody has a problem with the way you're looking, it's not your problem. It's theirs. And most of the time it's a lack of, or it's something that they're struggling from within, and they don't have a firm grip on self-image, okay? So keep that in mind. And I am always proud of Gabby or anybody else that gets out there and does things. And like I was saying with my grandmother, she didn't care if she was walking to the store, if she was out there in the garden. And that was one of the things that was so funny, even in the neighborhood. She would be out there tilling that garden. She'd have her big hat on. She'd have her matching earrings on. That was just how she was. And if she made her own dresses, but she felt good. Now, another thing on that line, when you talk about self-acceptance, is being able to feel good. A lot of times we're in a wave when we're talking about social media. This can be very dangerous because one of the things that's most important to me is optimal health. Now, with that being said, for years I always wanted to teach character education because I wanted our youth to have a firm grip on who they are. Because think about it, our suicide rate was increasing because they didn't feel worthy or didn't feel that they had the esteem that they needed to. And when other people would talk about them or say different things about how they looked, how they dressed, or whatever, they didn't know how to counteract that or to be able to go within to pull that out. Believe it or not, there are a lot of adults who still do the same thing. I see people on a daily basis, even in their jobs, cannot go to another level or another position or even be brave enough to step out there on their own to start their own company because they're going to what if themselves to death. Okay? So one of the things, even when you're going with your whole self-image, this is about your emotional health, but this is also your social. Being able to know how to interact with other people, knowing how not to take somebody else's thoughts and opinions about you for your own. That's not mine to take on. Now, another thing is when we're talking about health, we're also doing a lot of publicizing. And I always like to say this, think in terms of this. When you look at somebody who has this beautiful head of hair, oh, she has thick hair, or he has a thick head of hair and is so wonderful. But then what if something unexpected happens like cancer? Sometimes what happens is then we have a movement of we want to really put that person on our shoulders, which we should embrace them and motivate them. And then everything shifts to be able to say, oh my goodness, you're beautiful. Chemo has taken hair out, all of these things, but you're beautiful. Guess what? They were beautiful with the long flowing hair. They're beautiful without it. So even when I think about Gabby Douglas, even if she was tumbling on those bars, those rail, that rail, see, I'm not a gymnast. That's okay. But even if she did that completely bald-headed, she still would have nailed what she set out to do. That's what we have to learn for us to be able to have our own self-acceptance. Now, when we focus on self-acceptance, I want you to keep in mind about your appearance. I want you to keep in mind about your worth. Do they necessarily have to go hand in hand? Everybody that you see walking up and down the street with the most expensive pair of shoes or the hottest bag in town don't necessarily have the highest self-esteem. Please keep that in mind. And sometimes, no, all the times, save your judgment to yourself, because what happens also with that in judgment, stay tuned because in an upcoming episode I'm going to tell you about judgment. Now, one of the things with that is don't be so quick to be able to judge somebody whether or not you think they have low self-esteem, because I always like to share this. Never ever should there be a time that what you know about yourself should ever be overridden by what somebody think they know about you. Know yourself. And before we talked about know thyself, heal thyself, all of these particular things, know who you are. Now, with that being said, one of the things I want you to really concentrate on is your acceptance in your appearance. Now, when you're working a job, please be able to make sure that you're going in looking presentable and whatever it is that you're choosing to do, that's important. But your judgment of how that other person, if you don't know, just ask. Now, even years ago, we all have, in some point in time in our life, even if it was younger growing up, because like I said, even working with youth and having my own children, sometimes self-esteem creeps or rear its ugly head or creeps in. And sometimes it's whatever's unfair. Sometimes if you spend hours and hours on social media, and this is for a lot of adults, they spend countless hours on social media and whatever is in at the time. And sometimes they like to have it on jokes, because sometimes I can hear it on radio shows and things, and some of the hosts talk about it. Oh, this year light skin's in. Oh, this year's dark skin's in. Or is it the blonde, brunette, like we said before? But just be able to have a firm grip on you so you don't have to waver. Now, the youth are watching us. They are watching what we place as important. Now, in my household, I like to place self-worth. Now, remember when I say when you're trying to wait for somebody else to validate you, when you're waiting for somebody else to tell you, like I always like to share, that means you'll always be a puppet for somebody else telling you what to do, when to do, and what to do next. So don't allow that to happen. So this is both young and old, and there's no matter, because I work with senior citizens on a regular basis, and you would be surprised how many senior citizens still struggle with what somebody else says. I'm like, go and enjoy your golden years. I say that on a daily basis. Enjoy your golden years. But what I've learned in researching over the years is if they've spent majority of their life not having that level of confidence, it will still pour into the adulthood and older adulthood life. So that is something that is so important. Now, believe it or not, we talked about the suicide rate. We want to do what we need to be able to do to enhance that. Now, also to go a little bit deeper, I want you to be able to reach out, because right now we're going to take a break. But when we come back, I'm going to share 10 different steps that you can instantly apply to yourself to be able to make sure that you can enhance your self-acceptance, your self-confidence, so that way you can live a healthier, happier life. Stay tuned.
How does your small business stay top of mind with customers? From deals that bring them in with an offer, to social media promotions that turn fans into customers, to events that engage and create buzz, to emails that keep loyal customers coming back. Our easy-to-use tools will keep you in front of your customers.
Visita provides a complete business calendar, fully integrated with your client scheduling experience. You can view and manage your daily schedule and any upcoming meetings, and most importantly, schedule new appointments and follow-ups with your clients. Using Visita Calendar for client scheduling will save you time and deliver a better service to your clients. Visita Calendar automatically syncs with your existing calendar on Google, Outlook, iPhone, and more.
Welcome back. Thank you for tuning in. And right now we would like to thank our sponsors for being able to make this show possible. And once again, thank you, our viewers, for continuing to tune in from episode to episode. Now, if you would like to be a sponsor on our show, please reach out. I can be reached at pam@meditatingmotivators.com, or you can send information to my website, which is meditatingmotivators.com. Now, with that being said, let's dive into those 10 surefire ways that you can be able to enhance, increase, or just be able to start improving your self-acceptance. Now, I always like to say, when I say your self-acceptance, some people may focus on self-esteem. All of these things, you'll realize they'll go hand in hand, and all of them will be able to be benefited from these 10 steps. Now, I share these ideas because these are things that I implement. It's not just things that I read. These are things that I want to share with you that really does work. Now, number one, the first thing that I found is that it is important to raise your vibration. Now, why did I start with that one? Because a lot of people do not understand what that means. And I purposefully started with it first because I feel like that was so profound with me, and I want to make sure you get this one. So number one, being able to raise your vibration. Now, what does that mean is sometimes when you walk into a room and the energy is heavy, everybody feels like, I know sometimes when I can walk in and instantly see somebody, I'm like, how are you? Are you having a great day? They'll tell you, oh yeah, I'm good. Or that old general, how you doing? I'm fine, which there may be turmoil going in every day. Now, a lot of us do that. And I always say we carry a mask with us all the time, because what we do is we get so programmed to do what others expect us to do. But you can feel when your vibration is lower. Now, it's just throughout life, you might have been taught all different kind of words to be able to use. Sometimes somebody say, ooh, that person just give me an eerie feeling. Or sometimes you may say, I'm just not feeling her vibe. See what I'm saying? There's different words that you use, but asking yourself, what is my energy level? So now when you're dealing with any type of situation, let's just choose one. So let's say you're going on a job. Now you can ask yourself, when you're walking into that job, what do you feel? I feel sick at my stomach. I feel that, I just feel like I just want to get nauseated. Or I feel like I'm already going to snap somebody's head off and I haven't even walked in the door yet. I read social media. I read people's blogs as well. But where's your energy level? Do you feel like it serves you? Or do you feel like it's weighing you down? You know, but we take time to either focus on it and deal with it, or we choose to ignore it. Guess what happens when you ignore it? It's going to continue on because you're not facing that. So that's one of the things when I'm saying being able to raise your vibration level. Now also in the upcoming episode, I'm going to show you exactly how you can be able to do that. And some of the little simple ways you can be able to do is speak positive over yourself. You speak positive over yourself, because we all know what it feels like when you're walking, minding your business, just having an average day, and somebody out of the blue, "Ooh, girl, you look so pretty today. That top is so gorgeous on you." Or, "Young man, I love those shoes. You are working that suit." You know, we know what that feels like when somebody else speaks positive over us. But I know it's like one song I've always loved that I used to hear in churches: speak encouragement over yourself. You have to speak that over yourself. So even when you're doing that, I'll also show you when we're talking about foods, how to do the same thing with your digestion. So making sure you raise your vibration level to a higher level and being able to gauge it throughout the day. Now, with the vibration level, I want you also to keep in mind that whether you know exactly how to do it, I'm also going to be able to share. There's going to be so many different ways that I can take that deeper, but for the sake of time for this show, I will be able to just encourage you to be able to make sure you once again go to meditatingmotivators.com, and I'll be glad to show you so many different ways that work for you. Also, if you don't have time to do that, just email me. Send me that message or comment, and I'll be glad to be able to help you personally with that. Now, the next thing I want to be able to say, which is so important, is making sure you release past unwanted situations or patterns in a proper or healthy way. Now, I said that purposefully that way so you'll know you need to release those unwanted past patterns that no longer serve you. Now, a lot of things we were taught that that struggle. Now, I don't know why right now the word intuition or intuitive or any of these things freak some people out. I always say you fear or you actually resist things that you just have not taken enough time to research. Simple as that. It's just you don't know enough about it, because what's right or wrong with it, we all have that. Most of the time, just like I said before on the last step, is being able to say, something told me, and I said that in a southern way because I did grow up in the South, something told me that I should not have gone there, or something told me that I should have done this. Intuition, those things we definitely have. That is a part of our spiritual health. That is a part of us internally. Now, that's also being able to say, sometime when you hear me say authentic self, higher self, your inner self. All of those things are so important, because when I say outer, that's focusing on who we have become based on what we were taught. Who we have become based on what we were taught and what we were exposed to. Now, remember, the first step is making sure you do what you need to do to raise your vibration. And the second one is to make sure you release in a healthy way those particular things that no longer serve you. Now, some people are so anchored into the past. And a lot of times I hear people that are still angry. And when you talk about your energy level, think about this. Do I still get upset when I talk about something or think about something? Now, this is something that is so important. I tell people, focus on a picture. We all love to take pictures, but just now we're living in an area that we like to take the selfies, and we do it with our phone. But the moment you take that picture, that image tells a story. Now, if your vibration level was high, every time 20 years later when you look at that picture, it's going to give you that warm, fuzzy feeling. Now, if you look at that, if you take that picture and your energy level is low and you're heavy, or you just got out of an argument with somebody, then guess what's going to happen? You're going to actually remember, oh, I remember that day like it was just yesterday. That's why people say that when people are having a discussion about a topic and they say, oh, I remember that just like it was yesterday, they have not properly released that unwanted pattern. And you have to do that in every aspect of your life. Now, everybody wants to be successful. Everybody wants to move ahead or want to grow to a next level, but you can't do that bringing all that baggage along with you. Learn how to dispose of it the way it needs to, or sometimes I like to teach people to compartmentalize it. If you don't know what to do with it right now, find the right compartment to put it, that it does not affect you and where you're going until you're able to properly rid yourself of that. Okay, just a recap. First step is making sure that you raise your vibration level, not just one time, but daily and as often as possible. Check yourself. Second of all, release any unwanted issues that no longer serve you, because that forgiveness, you've all learned, that is within, and that's actually for yourself. Now, step 3, we don't have to spend a lot of time on it, but it's knowing your why. Why is it important to you? Why is it that you do the things that you do? So when I say making sure your why, now for you even getting healthy, now I always like to refer to myself, why being healthy is so important to me is because I've shared with so many people family health history and whether there's risk and things. It was simply, I just don't want some of those issues. So that would promote me to be able to research and do the things that will keep me healthier. But when we're talking about your self-acceptance, why is it important for you to tune out what other people feel about you or what somebody says that you can do? Because when you're thinking about how many celebrities that are well known today, but back in the day somebody told them that they would never measure up. Hint, hint. Remember, everybody knows that story about I almost said Michael Jackson, but Michael Jordan. Somebody had said you would never be to that level. But don't let anything stand in your way. Make sure your why is big enough. Now, even with me, I don't care what kind of week I'm having, I stay focused on my why. Why is it so important for me to stay focused to reach people? What is it about meditating motivators or why I do what I do? Is because I know it's my calling. So being able to make sure, 1, that you are making sure that you raise your vibration level. 2, making sure you release unwanted. Is your why big enough? Now, we don't have to go back over number 4, which is your self-image. Being able to make sure your own personal self-image is intact is number 4. We don't have to go back into it. Now, the next step would be meditation. Now, we have often talked about the importance of meditation, and we just talked about a show, and we'll be talking a lot more about meditation, but meditation is so important because what that is going to do is that's going to connect your inner self with your outer. Okay, making sure you meditate on what is most important. Is it more important what you know about yourself or what someone else says? Because remember, before the break, I said what you truly know about yourself should never be overridden by what somebody else think they know about you, because most of the time they're only saying what they think they know about you. Now, number 6 is something we've already talked about before, so we don't have to put too much emphasis on it, but I want you to be able to go back into those questions of being able to ask yourself on a daily basis, who am I? You have to ask yourself, who am I? And remember, ask yourself, who am I physically? Who am I personally? Who am I spiritually? And who am I mentally or intellectually? So that way you need to be able to find that out and then ask yourself, are they in alignment? So you do this on a regular basis and you will become more and more in tune with who you are. Now, the next step, which is number 7, I want you to concentrate on your functional age. We also talked about this. Don't get hung up on how old you are, actually, that chronological, but do something every day that brings your functional age down. Now, that is the reason why I wanted to say this is a way to really increase your self-acceptance. Do something every day that is going to help you tap into that functional age. Move around, do things that you can be able to do. Go and do things that you haven't done in years because it just makes you feel good. Now, if you're with a group of people and everybody wants to just sit outside on a bench, but you want to go over here and wade your feet in a pool of a little pond or a stream or a creek, go do it, because if that makes you feel good, think about where your vibration level will be. Going back to what we talked about, your vibration level. What things make you feel good? You have to tap back into it. So focusing on your functional age every day. All right. Now, number 8, we're getting there. Number 8 kind of relates to doing something with your functional age. Is tapping into your inner child. We do not do that enough. What do I mean with tapping into your inner child? We all were told at some point in time, that's childish, or you need to grow up. Well, guess what? If a lot more adults learned how to tap into their inner child, they would be a lot happier, a lot less stressed, a lot less ulcers, all of those things, because they would be tapping into the things that make them feel happy, feel good, feel loved. And I always love to say, humans have these basic needs: need to be accepted, need to belong, need to be loved, and the need to just be able to receive that from someone else. So we want to be able to make sure you're tapping into your inner child. Now, years ago, it's so funny. Years ago, I used to get with certain people when I'm trying to get them to, they don't know, they're depressed and everything. How do I get into a happier mode? I would say, what are some of the things as a child that used to just make you just rant and get excited? Now, I would get a wide variety of things, whether that was coloring, whether that was, the sound of an ice cream truck just makes me excited. It makes me excited too, because that was something I loved as a child. So I would always challenge adults, go back and do at least 3 things in a week that you did as a child. Now, for some reason, if you feel too ashamed to do it, you have to work on these things. And I promise you that ashamed or embarrassment will dwindle away, because you're doing things really to make you feel good. Now, we all know now that there has been a fad going on all over the world with this adult coloring now, and they're realizing that it is de-stressing. And I have a whole display of people of all ages, even people as old as 99, that are doing that and being able to tap into that. Now, I don't have to take a long time on the last 2. Now, number 9 would be to make sure you purposefully rejuvenate and refresh every day. Now, that looks differently. It doesn't mean that you have to get in the bed to go to sleep, because it is very important that you do get quality sleep, but want to do something every day to rejuvenate and refresh. Now, I always get this conversation because sometimes I'm working with couples, because we're talking about that social and then the love, but it's also about individualizing that, because one thing, the lady may love going to get pedicures, manicures. That may be what she feels to rejuvenate, but that guy just might want to be in his man cave, and he just might want to watch a good movie. He might want to do some kind of game or whatever. As long as it's not taking from one another or the house, have no problem with it, because everybody has a way to rejuvenate. Sometimes for me, it's about going and finding me a nice shaded park bench to sit so I can meditate, and it's something I'm drawn to, little streams of water. Now, that's number 9, is making sure every day you do something to refresh or rejuvenate. And remember, we can actually do a lot more detail. But the last thing I want you to really focus on, that a lot of people don't understand, is everybody eats. But the reason we eat is for different. Now, the upcoming episode, I'm going to take this number 10 a little bit deeper. Number 10 is making sure you're eating spiritual, electric foods that will actually satisfy and enhance you mind, body, and spirit. Now, I'll show you what that looks like, because we just eat sometimes just because it's there. But then you got to ask yourself what you're feeling. So I'll explain that a lot more. So making sure you go through each one of these on a daily basis, so that way you can. But that spiritual food, don't just eat what is placed in front of you. Make sure you eat to be able to enhance your entire being. So with that being said, those are your 10 steps. Well, I want to thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. For all of our upcoming episodes, please continue to tune in to bizlink.tv. And if you want to be able to reach me, you can email me at pam@meditatingmotivators.com or through my website at meditatingmotivators.com. Continue to send me your questions and your comments. I would love to hear from you. With that being said, here's to you living optimally.